In this lesson, you are going to learn about a new type of sentence. But before we get to the new type of sentence, let's review what you already know about the different sentence structures. What I'd like for you to do is to open up to your grammar section in your notebook and go ahead and write down simple sentence, and then I'd like you to write down what a simple sentence is. All right, a simple sentence is one independent clause. Please now go ahead in your notebook and write down what an independent clause is. So an independent clause has a subject and a predicate. Please remember that a predicate is just a fancy word for a verb. In your notebook now, please go ahead and write down what a compound sentence is. A compound sentence is two independent clauses, and we combine those two independent clauses using either a comma in a coordinating conjunction or the semicolon. So in your notebook, please go ahead and write down what your coordinating conjunctions are. Your coordinating conjunctions are your fanboys. So for and nor, but, or, yet so. So basically for a compound sentence, we take two simple sentences, the two independent clauses, and we combine them together. Now in your notebook, go ahead and write down what a complex sentence is. A complex sentence is one independent clause and one dependent clause. We already know that an independent clause is a subject and a predicate. But what is your dependent clause? What does it mean when we say that? Go ahead and write that down in your notebook. Your dependent clause is an independent clause with a subordinating conjunction at the beginning. So those subordinating conjunctions are in our song. Their examples are after, while, since, although, as. So we now have done a lot of talking this year about these three types of sentences: the simple sentence, the compound sentence, and the complex sentence. What I'd like for you to do is turn to the next page in your notebook, and we're going to take a second and we're going to look at these three sentences. And I'd like you to spend probably about a minute, so go ahead and look at the clock. And I'd like for you to try to figure out, what do you notice about these sentences? What do you see that's similar? And how does it compare to what we've already learned this year? When you think you've figured it out, go ahead and start the video again. All right, so as you looked at these sentences, you may have noticed some of the conjunctions that we've already been talking about this year. So for example, if we look here, see if I can get out of here so I get the pencil to work, you will see that we have let me get my pencil. All right. You'll see here that we have the coordinating conjunction, and if I look before it, I haven't had the time to go is a independent clause, and then I haven't been able to find anyone to go with me is also an independent clause. So there we know that we have a compound sentence. But if I look over here at the start of the sentence, I'm going to see that here is one of the subordinating conjunctions that we've been learning about. Although I like to go camping. So we know here that this is a dependent clause. And I'll mark these really quickly as independent clauses. So this is interesting. We have a compound part of our sentence, and we also have that DC, which kind of makes our sentence complex. Let's go ahead and let's look at the next one. If I'm looking at this, I see a coordinating conjunction. We decided that the movie was too violent. Here is another independent clause. Our children thought we were wrong, an independent clause. And then again, here I'm noticing a subordinating conjunction because they like to watch scary movies, which makes that a dependent clause. So I'm seeing the same thing again, two ICs in both of these sentences with one DC. Let's go to the next sentence. Here's the conjunction but again. I usually use a pick. That would be your IC. And then today I'll just use my fingers, another independent clause. If I look over here, I see the subordinated conjunction whenever that makes a dependent clause. So in all of these sentences, we have two independent clauses and one dependent clause. This makes a compound complex sentence. So in your notebook, go ahead and write this down, please. You'll notice that in a compound complex sentence, you're always going to have two independent clauses and one dependent clause. Remember, if we're kind of looking at the example analogy of a mother is independent, where the baby is dependent. The baby depends on the mother. So this can go in two different ways. We can have a DC, IC, IC. We could have an IC, DC, IC, or we could have an IC, IC, DC. So really with the compound complex sentence, it can be written three different ways. What I need you to go ahead and do right now is I need you to write down these examples. Here are the different structures for your compound complex sentences, and then I'd like you to write the example too. When you are done doing this, please go ahead and start the video again. So what's important to note here with these sentences is that you still follow the same rules with the commas as you would with the compound sentence or with the complex sentence. So for example, in the first one, your dependent clause is in the beginning, so you still have that comma. Then as you go into the compound sentence, you still have your comma. In the second sentence, the compound sentence is first, so you still have the comma. And then your complex sentence is at the end, so you don't need to have the comma anymore. In the third one, it looks a little different, but it's still ideally still the same rule. You're going to see here your first part of the compound sentence, then you'll see the complex, then the next part of the compound sentence, but you still have to have that comma because you have that coordinating conjunction there. So hopefully what you guys have noticed is that you're going to have at least one subordinating conjunction and at least one coordinating conjunction. What I'd like for you to do on your own is you've already written all this. I'd like for you just to mimic the three sentences. So change the words around but keep the structure the same. Go ahead and do that on your own. Once you've done that, you're going to come over, talk to me, show me what you've done. We'll have a quick conversation about it. And then what you'll do is you'll get a worksheet to work on practicing with your compound and complex sentences. What you'll have is you'll have a compound sentence. It will give you dependent clauses that you'll add to make it a compound complex. So go ahead and mimic the sentences that you see on this slide. And then what you will do is you will then come see me to get a worksheet.